When Pokemon Legends Arceus was released in January of 2022, many longtime Pokemon fans felt it was the proper progression of Pokemon, the evolution the series needed. Some said the open world design made it feel like you were playing an episode of the anime. Pokemon games have notoriously stayed stuck to the formula that they made popular because they didn't have to change, and this led to an era of Pokemon games that I wasn't personally excited to play. I talked about it briefly in my Pokemon Sword review, but I felt like the series didn't want to evolve past a certain point. The latest Pokemon release had a lot of problems. How does one of the most successful and beloved franchises botch the landing? The core team that worked on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were very low in numbers compared to other projects that were releasing around the same time on the Nintendo Switch, which really made people skeptical and question why Game Freak didn't put more money into development. The game is considered the lowest rated mainline Pokemon game in the series. They didn't staff their teams properly, and the result was a somewhat rushed game that in the end still managed to be one of the best-selling games on the Switch at the time, but this is probably because of all the goodwill and trust Nintendo and Game Freak have earned over the years with very well designed games, albeit good games, but it never really pushed the series forward until Palworld. So when I first saw the trailer for this game being thrown around, I was a little bit skeptical and I was worried that it would be another scam like the most recent game the day before. So I wasn't really convinced. And plus on top of that, it felt like everything Pokemon fans wanted from a Pokemon game. And if Nintendo can't pull it off, what's to say this random indie studio could? So I was skeptical going in because it felt like a too good to be true scenario. Of course, I was wrong. Everyone was wrong. Palworld might be one of the most significant video game releases in a long time because of all the precedence it sets. Games like Stardew Valley, Fortnite, and even Minecraft were not completely original ideas, but they built on a previous formula and executed it with precision, which pushed the medium forward. Even games like Angry Birds took their ideas from like Crush the Castle, and I didn't know until I was researching this video, but Minecraft was actually based on a previous game. Unfortunately, that's just how the game is played. If you have a good idea, it will be stolen, unfortunately, even in the gaming world. And Nintendo kind of had this coming too, because Pokemon games were always held back by the limitations of the Nintendo console they were released on. Pocket Pair was able to create a game that no Pokemon open world game would ever be able to accomplish. Plus on top of that, it released on the PC, which has a massive player base. I also feel like the game plays somewhat like a parody to Pokemon, almost mocking it at times. The names of some pals feels like a sarcastic insult to Pokemon names and designs, and the overall designs of the pals now have more purpose in this game than just battling as opposed to being in a Pokemon game. Every monster now functions outside of battles by helping you with base building, cooking, and farming. Some are clearly designed to battle, or some are clearly designed as like mounts or weapons or just working at your base. So that just takes that formula and flips it. The game sold 20 million copies in the first 2 weeks, which is a rare feat to accomplish. Right now, it's an early access game, which means it's not the final version of the game, but the upside to that is that it's only $30, which is a big reason why it sold so well. And I bet a lot of people didn't really care because $30 is a fair price, and the gameplay you're getting from that is crazy. The last two open world Pokemon games are still over twice the price of that, and some would say that Palworld has way more gameplay opportunities than just catching and battling. At its highest point, it had over 2 million players, and I have no doubt that when the full version of this game releases, it will once again capture the cultural zeitgeist like it has with its early access. The game is currently losing its player base, which is probably a good thing for the company because they've reported that the server costs have been really high, so this gives them time to work on the game and add more features to it. I'm just been amazed at how disruptive Palworld has been. Reggie Fils-Aimé talked about how the Nintendo DS was a disruptive piece of technology, and Palworld is just so disruptive in so many ways, gameplay-wise, and even when it comes to video game development. The game industry has changed. You can now go online like YouTube and learn game development and use free platforms to publish games. And through the power of the internet, you can make whatever you dream of. And now with the advancement of AI, you can now create assets just by typing a sentence into an image generator. So it's getting easier and easier to develop games now. And Palworld is the complete manifestation of that just in your face. There are people on both sides of the AI debate. I can agree with both sides, but the advancement in technology is something that has been historically never stopped. So who knows if AI will ever be stopped? Let's be completely realistic here. And for those who don't know, it's been revealed that the PAL designs were AI generated, which is probably why it felt like in many ways they surpassed the designs of Pokemon. Of course, they weren't really fooling the teacher when they made some obvious ripoffs, which were complete copy and paste designs of certain Pokemon, and also questions the creativity of the developers. But it's hard to deny how easily it is now for non-union indie game developers to push the boundaries on what they can do with AI. Whereas a traditional company would have to have like a concept artist that is on payroll, these Wild West indie developers can literally just forget that expense and just go straight to game development, which is crazy. And I also heard a story about how the person who developed all the gun systems in the game was a self-taught kid who worked at a convenience store. Like, that's crazy. When I first saw the designs of the PALs, I honestly wondered if they hired Ken Sugimori, the original designer of Pokemon, to design them, because they all had like a similar theme and attention to detail. This attention to detail was lost in later Pokemon generations. Later Pokemon games didn't even seem to care about the designs. Like, some Pokemon are like look humanoid, some Pokemon just look stupid, like all the Generation 5 Pokemon, I'm sorry. And like, why is there no male Kangaskhan? I don't understand that. But the reality is this: AI is now everyone's pocket calculator, whether you like it or not. Unless they enact some law in the future to stop the advancement of AI, it seems very unlikely, because it seems like it's helping a lot of people and saving people a lot of money and time. And unfortunately, I know there's a lot of companies that would choose profit over people, and that's just a sad reality of life. But the fact that Nintendo and Game Freak have been taking advantage of its player base for a long time is a fact that can't go unnoticed. I think this game's success would be a huge wake-up call to them, and I feel like, personally, they should just buy Pocket Pair and make this the next Pokemon title. Of course, if they do, they'd probably like remove a bunch of stuff like the slaughtering of pals, which made me feel very uncomfortable as someone who grew up raising Chow and not wanting them to die. I can see the downsides of this becoming an official Pokemon game, but this game is exactly what people wanted from Pokemon, and Nintendo got completely dunked on, which is significant. This game was the most played and most talked about piece of media in the last few weeks than any other game I've ever seen in a long time. There's meme pages dedicated to this game. It's crazy. In the future, if this game releases next to an official Pokemon release, I wonder if that Pokemon game would sell the same as Palworld. I mean, it's not crazy to think about. In the end, this is the Pokemon game that we all wanted, and this is just a wake-up call to any company that owns franchises and they don't want to push the medium forward. This should be a reminder to all of them that there is always someone out there who is more hungrier and with better resources that are ready to dunk on you, homie. Anyways, I'm Sal, your pal. This has been another one of my videos. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Sorry I haven't been putting out videos. I've been feeling kind of depresso. So, time for some espresso!